Are you ready to take your striking game to the next level? Then you've got to get the focus ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, reflex, hand-eye coordination, head movement, and striking IQ. Lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere with the focus ball.
Hi, it's Minnie. You're watching Dante Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So according to reports, according to Manny Pacquiao Promotions, Sean Gibbons, Manny Pacquiao is really interested in facing Errol Spence after his performance against Danny Garcia. Now, before I go over what Manny Pacquiao had to say about facing Errol Spence, let me put all of this in chronological order. So first, Manny Pacquiao, he actually contacted Errol Spence directly by sending a message to him right after Errol Spence beat Danny Garcia. He congratulated him on the win. He sent him a message on one of his social media accounts. That alone was a sign that Manny Pacquiao was most likely leaning towards Errol Spence. Because even though Manny Pacquiao was in serious negotiations to fight Terrence Crawford, and according to Bob Arum and Terrence Crawford, the only reason the fight didn't happen was because of the whole pandemic situation, where they were afraid that they would not be able to make the money that they need to pay out everyone. Let me clarify that a little bit better. The investors were worried they wouldn't make enough money to pay out everyone. So like I was saying, Manny Pacquiao, even though he negotiated with Terrence Crawford, he's never sent Terrence Crawford a direct message to him congratulating him on his performance. The fact that he's doing that with Errol Spence is a good sign. So let me get to exactly what was said when it comes to Manny Pacquiao. So Yahoo Sports' Kevin Iole, he contacted MP Promotions' Sean Gibbons, and Sean said that Manny Pacquiao was impressed and thought Spence looked good, still has the fire to fight in 2021 and would like to take on Spence. I tell you right now, Errol Spence going in there and looking like a 70 to 80% of himself against Danny Garcia was probably the best thing he could have done, because now his chances of getting the Manny Pacquiao fight is much better. The situation kind of reminds me of Keith Thurman. When Keith Thurman looked horrible against Josito Lopez, I told you guys, I would not be surprised if Manny Pacquiao now calls out Keith Thurman. And probably a week later, we heard, or a couple days later, we first heard it from Freddie Roach saying, we really want that fight. Manny Pacquiao's going to destroy this guy. And then Manny Pacquiao confirmed that he wanted the fight. And Manny, at age 40, beat the young, prime 30-year-old Keith Thurman. And guys, this is the reason why you cannot make excuses for Manny Pacquiao when you say, oh, he's 41 years old. Not only did he beat a 30-year-old Keith Thurman, but you got to remember, that was 5 years after he lost to Floyd Mayweather. He put on a better performance 5 years later against Keith Thurman than he did 5 years before losing to Floyd Mayweather. Why is that? That's obviously because styles make fights, and Floyd Mayweather is better than Manny Pacquiao, obviously, right? So you can't start making up age excuses if Manny Pacquiao goes in there with Errol Spence just because you already feel that Errol will win the fight. Just like you can't make age excuses when Manny Pacquiao lost to Floyd Mayweather. I mean, by watching fighters like Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Bernard Hopkins, we know that their age 40 is not the same as a lot of fighters today, age 35. If you look at a lot of the greatest fighters of all time, they were way past their prime in their early 30s. This is why I always tell people the sport of boxing evolves. The less you get hit, the longer you can last in the sport. And even though Manny Pacquiao has been knocked out, 3 times in his career, he's never just been brutally beat up. He doesn't get hit like an Antonio Margarito. He may get caught with one good shot and get knocked out, but that's better than getting hit, 20 flush shots around. And not saying every boxer can do it, but that's why fighters like Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, and Bernard Hopkins, they were able to stick around for so long and still fight with their A game. Manny Pacquiao is definitely on his A game right now. And I'll tell you guys something right now that would probably surprise you. If Manny Pacquiao would have fought that Errol Spence, the same that fought Danny Garcia, that would be a pick'em fight. Because once again, Errol Spence was not 100%. Errol Spence would have to be 100% to guarantee a win over Manny Pacquiao. This is the reason why Manny Pacquiao wants that fight. He's seen Errol Spence tire. He's seen Errol Spence not look like the same Errol Spence in those last 4 rounds against Garcia. That's what he's banking on. Something else that Manny is banking on when it comes to an Errol Spence fight is his speed. I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was after Errol Spence beat Sean Porter, Manny Pacquiao came out and he said, you have to beat Errol Spence with speed. He was saying that he has the speed to beat Errol Spence. But what Manny Pacquiao should know by now is there are a lot of things that can offset speed. A good jab can offset speed. And Errol Spence has one of the best jabs in the business today. Just ask Danny Garcia. Danny made no excuses for losing, and he attributed the loss mainly to Errol Spence's jab. He said, I couldn't get around the jab. He said, his jab offset everything that I wanted to do. And it's funny because after he said that, I went back the next day and watched the fight. You pay attention to things like that after you hear the fighter say that. And now when I watch the fight, I notice how discouraged Danny Garcia looks every time he gets hit with the jab. And I didn't notice how accurate it was until Danny Garcia mentioned it. There will be times when Danny Garcia, he's about to launch an attack, and then out of nowhere, Errol would catch him with a double jab. And Danny, he would reset and he would go back to moving around and trying to figure out another way to land some punches. Not only was the jab accurate, but it was extremely powerful by Danny's own admission. He said out of the 3 he fought, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, he said Errol Spence was definitely the strongest. And the way Danny's face looked at the end of that fight kind of confirms that. I mean, you've seen his left eye alone. His left eye was in bad shape, and that was just from Errol Spence's jab. On top of that, Manny Pacquiao, he's going to have to deal with Errol Spence's reach. But this is not just a tall fighter. This is a tall fighter who knows how to control distance. If you don't believe me, just ask Mikey Garcia. It's funny because while Danny Garcia is attributing his loss to Errol Spence's great jab, Mikey Garcia, he was attributing his loss to Errol Spence's great control of distance. Mikey Garcia said he just knew where to be at all times. If I came forward, he knew how to just be right out of range to slip the shot and come back with a counter. So with Manny Pacquiao, he's going to have to worry about Errol Spence's great jab, him controlling distance, and everything else that Errol Spence possesses, because he is the complete package, at least when he's 100%. So if Errol Spence does get the Manny Pacquiao fight, there is absolutely no reason for Terrence Crawford to not take on his then mandatory Sean Porter. Because Porter is now Errol Spence's mandatory and he's Crawford's mandatory. But because a unification bout will trump a mandatory, then Errol Spence, he will still be able to take the Manny Pacquiao fight. Therefore, that leaves Sean Porter being the mandatory of Terrence Crawford. And Sean Porter just said that Terrence Crawford is more of a priority than Errol Spence because he's never fought Terrence Crawford before. So I think that's the fight that we're going to end up seeing next for Terrence Crawford. Now, going back to Manny Pacquiao before I wrap this video up, I'm sure some people are still going to say they don't believe Manny Pacquiao, that he really wants to fight. I believe Manny Pacquiao, he really wants this fight. We've never seen him reaching out to the likes of an Errol Spence. We've never seen him talking about ways that he could possibly beat an Errol Spence. And we have never heard reports of him telling his promotional company, this is the guy I want to fight. We've never heard any of this from Manny Pacquiao. So because of those reasons, I know that he's serious. I just wonder if it's going to be his very next fight. That we don't know yet. We'll see. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elodiki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. This is the future right here, I'm telling you guys. If you've lost your hair or you have a receding hairline, this is how you get it back permanently. So if you want to get this hookup for my brothers out there in the UK and Europe, make sure you check out the Scalp This on Instagram. And for my brothers out there in the States, make sure you go ahead and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. And when you go on their pages, you can see for yourself what these guys look like before. I mean, these guys are literally hair magicians. I've never seen anything like this before, but all I can tell you guys is this is a serious game changer for us men.